be expected. Why don't you guys throw a guess in the chat? What 90s pop song do you think hit the hardest while we were playing? It was none other than Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You. I can't answer why. I don't know why. That's just what happens. And so as we transition here into this live golf discussion, I did want to send this, which was sent by one of our other teammates' wives. So here we go. This is the PGA Tour agrees to merge with the Saudi-backed rival LIV Golf. Okay. So this was huge news that dropped today. All of the public grandstanding, all of the comments made, all of the eye rolling and all of the big leaguing done by the PGA, some of which I agreed with, right? Some of which, those of us in the chat agree with. We really, really did not expect this kind of a settlement or agreement to happen this quickly, but it did. And I posted on Twitter again, 90+% of civil cases end in a settlement. So there is no surprise that once a lawsuit was filed and it didn't get dismissed and it was continuing down and they were making waves, that a settlement happened. We should not be surprised at that. Run the World said, is Phil going to be blacklisted? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about all of that because there's a lot going on. But one of the reasons I shared this specifically is I wanted to see if any of you guys actually look at the documents I put on the screen, because it took me a second that when Jason Kupperman, one of our other teammates' wife, sent this to him as a screenshot, the rest of the title says, and Florida-based PI golfing circuit was led by the scramble team of Kupperman, Tragos, Sullivan, and Kosling. So, as you can see by that title, and before we get to the other stuff here on LIV, let's just show a picture of the winning team. Your boy got it done. We did not leave empty-handed. We, was going to guess we were the champions. Well, that would have been appropriate, Denise, since we were, in fact, the champions. Holly said, nope, don't care. Yeah, I get it. Not the whole crowd will stick for the LIV golf merger talk. A lot of people saying, yeah, I don't look at anything that's shared. And somebody else said I need to use a magnifying glass. Yeah, I thought that was funny too. So, all right, let's get into it. And what we're going to start with is a bit of a discussion about where the PGA Tour was just 11 months ago as we watched this interview with Jay Monahan, who is their CEO. And we're going to talk about and listen to what a big difference of where we are now.
That was correct to our court.
Well, he wasn't wrong. They certainly are growing, and it is a time unlike any other, just like a tournament unlike any other. Let's read the letter he wrote to the players. PGA Tour members, today is a momentous day for your organization and the game of golf as a whole. The PGA Tour, your tour, is leading the formation of a new commercial entity to unify golf, one that sees the end of the disruption and distraction that has divided the men's professional game for the better part of 3 years. Through a framework agreement, the Public Interest or Investment Fund is contributing its golf-related commercial businesses and rights, including LIV Golf, along with a significant financial investment. At the end of the day, no matter what we say, it's all about the money. It's all about the money. Toward minority equity ownership of a new collectively held for-profit LLC. This new entity, named TBD, will also include the PGA Tour's commercial business and rights, as well as those of the DP World Tour. PGA Tour Inc. will remain in place as a 501c3 or 501c6 tax-exempt organization, retains administrative oversight of the PGA Tour, including the sanctioning of events, the administration of the competition and rules, as well as all other inside-the-ropes responsibilities. I remain as commissioner. For whoever commented that Jay, it's a bad day for Jay, he's not going to survive this. He's remaining as commissioner of the PGA Tour, and Ed Herlihy as PGA Tour Policy Board Chairman. PIF's governor, Yasir Al-Ramayan, will join the PGA Tour Policy Board, so he gets a seat at the table. And what's interesting about this is, so there's going to be this new collective, basically, and they're going to let the Public Investment Fund buy into it. And LIV's going to go away. It's going to change. I don't know. There's still a lot to be seen and to be determined here. Upon execution of the definitive agreement, the board of directors, which will oversee and direct all the new entities, golf-related commercial operations, business, and investments, will include Al Ramayan as chairman and me as chief executive officer. So is Al Ramayan the boss, or is Jay going to be the boss? That's going to be interesting. It seems to me like there's some equality here between the two, and that this is more of a merger and not just a snuffing out of LIV. The two of us will also be part of the new entity's executive committee, along with Ed Harley and PGA Tour Policy Board member Jimmy Dune. The PGA Tour will appoint a majority of the board and hold a majority voting interest in the combined entity. There are many details to work through as we develop a definitive agreement, which will ultimately require PGA Tour Policy Board approval. And I know you have many questions, some additional items to note in the meantime. Notably, today's announcement brings an end to all pending litigation between the participating entities and prohibits any further recruitment of PGA Tour, DP World Tour, or LIV Golf members. So what is the very first bullet point he says? The civil litigation is now over. That shows what pressure and leverage and effect civil litigation has. And that's how we started talking about this. Number two, we will conduct a comprehensive evaluation of LIV and determine how to best integrate team golf into the professional game. The 2023 LIV golf schedule will continue as planned. So are they going to implement team golf like LIV does, or do other things that LIV does? Which, again, if we remember back to the complaint, they basically said they want to do different things. The PGA Tour is a stick in the mud. When we listen to their interviews, they say the PGA Tour needs to get with it. There's more money. They need to give more money to the players, things like that, which they started to do. The LIV Tour absolutely affected the PGA Tour. No doubt in my mind. You guys let me know if you agree or disagree. We will work cooperatively to establish fair and objective process for any players who desire to reapply for membership, meaning if the LIV Tour golf guys want to come back, they can come back. This is a complicated endeavor and one that will be guided by established PGA Tour rules and regulations. Everybody expects that they are going to have to pay major fines to get back, and that money is going to go to the PGA Tour players, but that's all just guesswork at this point. In addition to the financial investment in the new entity for an equity stake, PIF will make a financial investment to become a premier corporate sponsor of the PGA Tour. PIF will make an additional investment in the new entity that will allow us to build an even stronger and more robust commercial business. PIF is committed to significant financial support toward causes that positively impact the game on a global basis. Even though everything they said in their complaint was that this is so horrible, it's blood money, it's so bad, anybody that touches it, is a demon. But these last three bullet points, all they basically say is financial investment, financial support. It's about the money. There is much work to do to get us from a framework agreement to a definitive agreement, but one thing is obvious. Through this transformational agreement and with PIF's collaborative investment, they're talking so great about their new financial partner. The immeasurable strength of the PGA Tour's history, legacy, and pro-competitive model not only remains intact, but it's supercharged for the future. Our game, our players, and our fans will no doubt benefit for years to come. I will be on site at the RBC Canadian Open later today, and I would like to invite those in the field to a player meeting at 4 p.m. to help answer any questions you may have. If I was a PGA Tour player, I would be frustrated by this. PIF is the private investment fund, which is basically the Saudi money. It would be really frustrating to me. And for all intents and purposes, they are frustrated. They are annoyed. They feel like they're getting the short end of the stick. They were loyal. It should have paid off for them, and instead it's not. And for those of you in the chat calling Jay Monahan a hypocrite, well, let's go ahead and watch his interview from today. And this is the only way I could get it, so sorry if it doesn't come through as great, but let's take a listen.
I think that as time went on, and I know you've heard me say a couple times, circumstances change. What changed? I looked at where we were at that point in time, and it was the right point in time to have a conversation. And we weren't, Michael, going back to the origin of LIV.
Things change. You got to adapt, right? Enough money comes to the table. Maybe they have some legitimate arguments in their complaint. I don't know. I'd like to know what changed. What changed? Were they right in their complaint? Was it a monopoly? Is this a monopoly? Is this new thing that's been formed a monopoly? What's stopping someone else from coming and fighting against this? I'll tell you what's stopping them. Money. And the PIF had enough money to break in. Thank you, Melanie.
And I said this, they needed to go down their path and we were going to go down ours. We've done everything we can within our control to improve and grow the PGA Tour. And, they've launched LIV, they've proceeded with LIV, they've made progress with LIV. But ultimately it was looking at the broader picture and saying that I don't think it's right or sustainable to have this tension in our sport, and to be able to organize and orient this in a way where, again, we're in a control position. We have an investor, a great and world-class investor, and I recognize everything that
they have a great and world-class investor now. A little different than the language that was used in the complaint. And if you haven't read the complaint, we did a video on it, read through the whole thing. If you want to see exactly how the PGA Tour felt back then,
that I've said in the past and in my prior positions, I recognize that people are going to call me a hypocrite. And anytime I've said anything, I said it with the information I had at that moment. And I said it based on someone that's trying to compete for the PGA Tour and our players. And so I accept those criticisms, but circumstances do change. And I think that, in looking at the big picture.
What circumstances have changed, sir? That's what I would want to know.
And looking at it this way, that's what got us to this point. It probably didn't seem this way to them, but as I look to our players, those players that have been loyal to the PGA Tour, I'm confident that the move that they've made the right decision. They've helped re-architect the future of the PGA Tour. They've moved us to a more pro-competitive model. We have significantly invested, as I just talked to Brendan about, in our business in 23. We're going to do so in 24. And as we finalize this process, I think any player that has stayed is going to realize that the money that they're going to make, the strength of this platform, all the things that we talk about are going to put them in a really strong position. They're going to win. They're going to continue to grow. And we're in a control position on their behalf as we move forward in this structure.
And I can't remember if I just missed it here, but there was another part where he said, I know people are going to call me a hypocrite. And there are people calling him a hypocrite. It is a very difficult process to go through here. And we are going to see exactly how it works. Biographer. How is it not a monopoly? It's a great question. That is a great question. Michelle, couldn't the PGA just have backed off and let the players play in both instead of merging? Well, yes, Michelle, they could have. But if they would have done that, they would not have secured a wonderful and great financial partner and financial investor to help them create this whole big for-profit company that was going to give financial support and financial backing and additional financial investments there and buy in as equity stakeholders. And we're talking billions of dollars the PGA Tour is going to make from this merger. Money we can't even imagine. So that's why they couldn't let LIV do their own thing and still double dip into the PGA Tour. They had to merge for the money. Now, PGA Tour is still going to be the name. There's still going to probably be kings at the table, but it seems like the Saudi money is coming to the table. Thank you, Kristen. And what's interesting about this, right, is we know what the lawsuit said, and we've seen a lot of lawsuits, and we've seen lawsuits that ask for jurisdictional amounts, like for $50,000, $100,000, whatever it may be. And then we hear there's a settlement. People are always, even the Johnny Depp thing, where he gets multi-million dollars, he settles for $1 million. When a civil case is going on, and both parties agree to settle, regardless. Always, it depends a little bit. In federal court, sometimes you have to have settlement approves for different cases and things like that. But let's just say, for the most part, if the two sides agree and they are of sound mind and neither one of them are getting taken advantage of or are minors or things like that, if they agree and they dismiss the lawsuit and it's all over, whatever they agree on can be done. So if they ask for $1 million and they instead agree that a handwritten apology note is good enough, they can dismiss the case and it can be over. And the court would accept that settlement. If, like this is happening, where they're saying they've got to let us play, they've got to let us play on tour, PGA Tour says, no way, we don't want that dirty money. And then they come to the table and they say, fine, we'll get rid of LIV Golf, we'll merge with you, and we'll be back on tour. And the PGA Tour said, okay, we'll take that dirty money now. Well, they can do that, and they can agree, and the civil lawsuit can be settled, which is what's really interesting, as the civil justice system is a tool when you feel like you're being wrong, when you feel like somebody's a monopoly trying to just step on you. The civil justice system can help you there. When you go up against big corporations that you feel like are wronging you and you don't have enough money or time or power to fight with them, a lot of times the civil justice system is the only tool in the box for you to use. Rachel, unrelated, but I got a federal jury questionnaire out of Orlando. What's the difference between regular and federal jury service? Is there any? So what some of the differences is you can drive further because there's not as many federal trials and courthouses in different jurisdictions as there are state. Second, jury selection usually looks a lot different. It's a lot more stiff. The judge controls a lot more of the process, but generally speaking, you're going to listen to a trial, listen to evidence, and make a decision at the end. So it's pretty similar overall in Florida.